Hi, I'm Roy Collin, the host of the podcast. You can find everything about me by scanning the QR code there or going to roycollin.com. And you'll find my six podcasts, the Podfather, helping people become podcasters, the Awakening, exposing fraud and corruption, but with solutions, the Crypto, all things blockchain technology, meditation podcast, speaking podcast, and the Learn Polish podcast. You can also help the show by actually making a donation, visiting the store, or helping my sponsors. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. My guest today, he either goes by Mohammed or Mo Issa, and we'll explain that in a minute. He's a writer, an entrepreneur, humanitarian. He's the founder and CEO of Chemo Home. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Born in Ghana, of Lebanese parents, and I believe 11, you moved to the UK.
Right.
So, yeah, and just before we get into it, like the book that you've read, what I can say is, and it's called The Mind Shift, the Midlife Mind Shift. There's very few authors that actually get you engaged in the book that you can kind of relive it as if you're there. And that's a gift. There's very few authors have that ability. So your writing style is incredible. I'm nearly finished it, and I mentioned prior to the show that basically I had family, but I'm thoroughly enjoying the book. So you're very skilled, and I want to touch on that as well because based on your journey. So please welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you for having me.
So I want to kind of know a little bit about you first, and I mean, one thing, Chemo Home. I'm just curious, where did that name come from?
That's interesting. Yeah. Uh, I mean, it's nothing really sophisticated. It's a mix between my name, Mo, and my father's name, which was Kasim Issa. So I played them around, and I wanted to set up my own company back in '94. And that's what came up. And I was specializing in home products, basically finished products like bathrooms, kitchens, floor and wall coverings. So that's how it came about, and that's how the business started almost 30 years ago now.
Other thing, just by reading the book, because you're talking about, different times you were just, looking at the sunset and smoking a cigar. And I was into cigars for ages, loved them. And then I decided, are they serve me? I give them up. And recently when my brother was here, we had a cigar and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I just, with your experience with cigars, how does it matter? Like, because you look at all the different types of cigars and the bigger ones and everything. Is it finding something that's right to you, or is there a way of knowing a good cigar? What we actually did is I'd asked the advice of the shop that was selling cigars, and they recommended a very good cigar, so we both thoroughly enjoyed it. But just curious, when you have smoked, a lot of cigars, how you'd advise people on that?
I mean, yes, I love smoking cigars, but again, I don't chain smoke. I don't smoke every day. I smoke. I try to do maybe two a week. But I find that before I get into the specific brand, that the whole smoking cigar, and I know it's people tell you it's bad for you and all that. I'm sure it is, but if you're moderate, like in everything else, it's okay. And it takes me like maybe 30 to 45 minutes to smoke one, and that really, I love to do it alone all the time, and it gives me so much reflection time. So it's like whether I'm journaling or smoking cigar, these thoughts sort of percolate in my mind all the time. And choosing the right cigar, I mean, I like I do in everything. I do a heavy research when I started smoking maybe 10, 12 years ago. And for me, Cuban is best because it was accessible. It wasn't that expensive. I could get them from Lebanon. I know in the States or in other countries, Cuban is very expensive. So people have shifted to our other Dominican or Honduras or whatever. But the type and some people can smoke the big ones and these very long cigars and heavy bodied, and nothing happens to them. But for me, I find that if it's too strong or too big, I start getting nausea and I don't feel good. So I'm always going for the small to medium. Like everything I do in my life, I try to moderate down, and I hate the fact that I'm going to be relying on something that actually gives me that long dopamine hit. So again, I go back to the type of cigar I smoke. small to medium-sized, petite robustos. These are the type I smoke. Yeah.
Very good. So, Mo, which you're kind of the middle of shift. I mean, like I've kind of gone through your journey, but for those that don't know you, I mean, we have to kind of take them through a little journey without kind of giving too much information because I'd encourage them to go away and get the book. Would you mind kind of tell people your story?
I mean, it all started like I'm following the path that was in a way set for me without me knowing, and it wasn't a bad path. And again, I'm speaking from privilege. I'm not someone who's had issues or deep trauma or whatever. But again, even all of us have our own issues and problems. So my story, I feel, resonates with a lot of people. It's like we take over the reins of our fathers or mothers, and we don't even know that we're doing that. My father came from a very poor background from Lebanon. He set up his own business in Africa, and he was very successful. And the jump he made from where he was and what he became was incredible. So for him, his values were very simple. It was you work hard, you focus on your family, you raise them up, and social status and prestige was very important for him because that's how he saw himself growing as a person, and it really did work for him. And till the day he died, that was in May of last year. He was one of those souls who's always full of life, and I envy his love of life and what he did. But without me knowing, and I took up his own formula, right? This is the formula that I learned by osmosis, I guess. It wasn't that he told me these are the things, but looking at him, living with him, that was what I took. And I started doing that, and I worked really hard. I graduated in England. I got a degree in law. I didn't practice a day of law, but I came back to Ghana and set up my own business, it was very successful very quickly because I followed the same formula. I was smart. I had the advantages over others, and I was hardworking. So within 3 to 4 years, I was making good money, earning a good living. I got married and had my 2 kids. And without knowing, I sort of fell into the, let's say, the Joneses trap. Like the more money I earned, the more money I would spend, the more I would look around and compare myself to other people around me. Like if they went to Bali, let's go to Bali and go to a 5-star hotel. If somebody else got a Mercedes G-Wagon, we need to get a 4-wheel drive. So, and this all happens without you actually even knowing. And then it reached to a point where I felt a bit dissatisfied. I felt listless, like I wasn't enjoying the fruits of my labor, and that really troubled me. And just at that time, like 2 things happened together in parallel that really affected me. So that was a start, and maybe we can talk a bit about those two things in a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And just curious, like when you moved at that young age to the UK, like how was that for you? Because, that's kind of an age where you're finding yourself. Was it hard fitting in?
Oh, definitely. And I think those years sort of marked me because obviously I came from Ghana. My English was good, but it wasn't perfect. I had an accent, and going 11 years old to a school, even though it's private, but of course you get sort of bullied in a way. And I learned early on that I had to take care of myself. So my armor was up, and and I say it in a book, it affected my character because I would attack first. That was the safest thing for me. I couldn't wait for others to attack me. So yeah, and with the British culture was so different to where I was from. Where I was from in Ghana, it was like a village. Everybody knows everybody. It was romantic. Everybody looked out for each other. In England, I remember getting on a train every day for about 9 months and knowing the same people. Nobody would even look up to your eyes or even say good morning or good evening. Or there's no, and you know that very well from it's not particular to England, I'm guessing, but it's all over Europe and the States. I feel like there isn't that warmth between people, and that sort of built that inner coldness in me and this invulnerability, which has taken me years to get rid of. Definitely.
What about the weather? Like Ireland is different, actually. Poland would be kind of similar to that, but Ireland, they're a lot more friendly. It's strange. So I don't know, have you been to Ireland, but I encourage you to visit and you'll see the warmth that's there. But how was the culture shock to the weather? Because, in Ghana, it's obviously a lot hotter and warmer.
And that also paid, yeah, that was crazy. I mean, it comes December till February, the sun sets at 4 o'clock and it comes out at 8:30, so you barely have any sun, the cold. And the funny part is I just came back from London now because my son is there and I visited, and I can't stand the cold, really. And it's unbelievable. It's still in me, even though it's refreshing and it's very nice, but I think it's from my childhood, I hated it so much from the comparison with Ghana that has affected me till today, I think. Yeah, definitely.
One of the things that I've kind of just from reading and seeing, and it's something that I've done a lot myself, is kind of attending courses and, just trying to better yourself, self-development and everything. And that's something that's kind of, you've done a lot of, and
Yeah.
kind of on your journey, kind of made realization. And sometimes, I suppose, seeing the trickery that's involved with some of these companies, because I've seen a lot of that, and I've been to events where I knew somebody that was organizing it, so I have to go out with the speakers, and you see them on stage with, like, you're just in awe of them. And then when I was out with them, I was like, these people are lost. Like, these aren't the same people that you think in your head. And you might kind of take people through your journey of self-development, because you've done a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, when the disillusionment came in, I started reading a lot, reflecting. Like over a period of 2 years, I was reading a book a week, maybe. So I went through a lot of the books and a lot of the self-help material as well. I went to Canada, met Bob Proctor, who was part of the secret team as well. And again, in theory and some of the things I learned from him till today, I'm thankful. But there is always that salesy part which I never liked, and they sort of suck you in to sign a new deal. But the reality is, self-help is, if you read one book, you've read them all, honestly. After years of reading so many, if you want to really help yourself, you take one book and just apply every single rule in it and move with action. They all work. They really all work. But you sort of get sucked in and you're in that seminar and you feel so good. And when you get back home, it's a completely different feeling because you're away from the environment and you feel like maybe there's something you're not doing. So it affects you because the even the title of self-help means you need help. It means you're broken, and it cannot go on for long. It has to be something that is like I saw a therapist once, and he told me at the end. He said, "If you're still coming to see me after a year, that means you're not improved. So there's no point for you coming back. We have a problem, you solve it, and you move on." Same thing with self-help. And of course, I'm not. There are a lot of people who have deeper trauma who need to go through longer times. I'm not saying I'm talking about somebody like me who's gone through some issues, obviously. But self-help is a great way to start, I think, your journey into self-awareness. But at the end, you have to get into action. You really do. And what I fear is these self-help you tend to get stuck into them. And one of my essays, I called this, I became like a self-help junkie. I would jump from one guru to the other. I finished it with Tony Robbins and going to his seminar in, where was it? In Wembley, I think it was in England, but he was amazing. He's a force of nature, honestly. He really is a force of nature. But then he's like a magician because a week after you step out of his spell, you feel like, what is he? Nothing new. He hasn't taught me anything new. But he sets up the environment is fantastic. You meet people there, the energy, the music, so he definitely leaves a mark. But I feel like, for me, if you want to start with self-help, I think there's no one better than Tony Robbins still today. Maybe he's getting older, but there comes a time where you use him as a takeoff, and then you start doing the work on your own. Nothing else is going to work. There's no short. Let's put it this way: there's no shortcuts and quick fixes, and we are always looking for that.
And I just heard him recently on Patrick Bet David podcast, and he's turning 65, but he's doing some event online, and he's doing it free in February. So for those that would be interested in, because not everybody can afford to go to these events, but what I've seen is a lot of them, they do the upsell as well. Because yeah, you're in there and they're getting you dancing and clapping and pumping, and it's like, as you say, there's such a massive feeling. And then when you come home, it's like people look at you as like there's something wrong with you because you've got that buzz and you expect them to be the same. And it's not, unfortunately, it's not the way that it is.
Right.
So, like, I'd like to touch on your writing, because there's a lot of people that aspire to start writing. And just by kind of reading what you went through and kind of feeling maybe, am I worthy of this? Will people actually like it? And then to kind of realize, I mean, that you've been featured in a few journals when you were blogging and everything, which, that in itself kind of proved that you had an ability. But you might just take us through the little journey of your writing.
Yes, sure. Because the interesting part is when I sort of did this self-help journey, I went through it, and afterwards I realized that I need to do the work on my own. And it was through writing that I was able to do that. I came across a book called The Morning Pages by Julia Cameron, where it's a great book. Everybody should read it. And it's like a journal. She advocates that you journal every day, 3 pages, just write stream of consciousness, keep on writing 3-page nonstop. It doesn't even have to be coherent. And after a while, I started journaling and writing and sort of reflecting my thought. And I found that I'm more introverted than extroverted. So whenever I actually had a pen in my hand and wrote, thoughts would sort of come down, my reflections would formulate on paper, even though I couldn't say them out aloud or when I'm discussing with other people. Meanwhile, I had friends and my brother who really spoke very well. And I had thought I had like no ideas or no thoughts. It wasn't until I started writing and practicing journaling that I really understood that, you know what, the difference with me is I cannot bring them out in front of people and talk. I need to be alone. I need to write them out. So from there, I started I enjoyed it so much. The feeling it gave me was inexplicable. I can't explain it, honestly. So that spurred me on to really keep on writing and writing. And I kept on enlisting help as well. Sure, I can write. I'm not bad at writing, but I started developing my writing style. I had a book coach. I did several courses. I went to a Paris retreat for a month, spent a month in Paris writing and living in Paris. I even embarked on an MFA. I did 1 year. I still have 1 year to go, and I had to stop for some reasons. So I've always looked at the craft of writing as something that I want to better myself. I want to improve myself. And what makes it so much better is I really do love writing, the whole craft. I love reading, writing. So that has made me a much better writer, and surrounding myself with this writing environment really helped me as well. Yeah.
Excellent. There's sometimes in life that things happen and then we kind of reflect. And as I was going through your book, like one of them was when you had the accident with the quad bike. Because with me, I went on a skiing trip with a few friends, and we kind of, before we went skiing, we went out drinking, and because there was 20 lads, we overdone it, and we ripped off this red mat and went up a hill. It was by the end of the hotel. Then it went up another, and I made a running jump and went on it. And there was about 6 of us on it, and they all flew off. I was the only one left, and ended up crashing through the fence, which actually where we took off the mat, it turned out to be a crash barrier. And then I hit a quad bike, and I destroyed my leg. It didn't break it, but they had to call an ambulance. And I remember even the guys were lifting me down in a wheelchair, and they nearly fell. I had to put my hands up myself to stop them. when we got to the hospital, I remember lying in the bed, not disappointed what happened, but looking at the wheelchair and going, I am so lucky I didn't break my neck, because that could have happened. And it was more not depressed, but more grateful of, with the stupidity, what could have been done. So you might take us through what happened with you and the moments afterwards and your journey on that accident that you had.
Yeah, the only thing about my accent was it wasn't even stupid. It was just free. It was freakish. I wish I did something funny or something exciting as you did. No, uh, there wasn't much snow, and really, the people who rented out the snowmobiles should not have allowed us to rent them out because there was not much snow. So just as I get on, my daughter comes on behind me, and I'm just taking a right. And there isn't enough snow, so I'm sort of pressing on the accelerator to move on, and it doesn't shift forward. So I just instinctively put my right leg on the ice, which is a big no-no. Like I wanted to help the whole snowmobile thing. The minute I did that, sort of, it lost the whole thing sort of lost its balance, and it fell on my leg, and it's a couple of tons. And my daughter flew up. Luckily, she flew off, and she landed okay. She was safe. But I landed, and it landed on me, and I could hear the crack, and I knew that I broke my leg. And the thing is, what, like everybody knows, or not many people know, thankfully, when you when you have a break or something, the adrenaline that comes in, and you don't really feel the pain. And I was sort of lying on the icy ground, and my kids near me, and my wife and family came rushing through. It was like I remember it like a movie moment, everybody rushing, like coming over to take me. Luckily, I didn't faint, but after a few minutes, sort of the pain started coming in, and it was horrible. I had to be taken down by an ambulance, all the way to a hospital, which that was in the mountain in Lebanon, and it wasn't the best of hospitals. So, but luckily in that hospital, there was a fantastic doctor, and it took him 6 hours to surgery on because I've broken both the tibia and the fibula. So, and that was all okay. I mean, I felt like even the first week, the 2 weeks, everybody is helping out, but then comes the rehab, and down the line, I was distraught, like, because I'm very physical. Half of my life is about whether it's walking, exercising, playing tennis, now paddle, or gymming. It involves a lot of exercising. So for 6 months, it took me around 9 months for me to be able to really recover, and some of the time was horrible, really horrible. Yeah.
Like because it's similar to myself. I mean, I've done sports all my life, squash, kung fu, everything. I've just, adrenaline junkie, I suppose you call it. And the same with kind of all the learning. But with the kind of slow down and smell the roses and kind of be present in the moment, because there's a lot of people that their mind is just doing 90 and they can never kind of appreciate what's going on, or kind of similar to the journey that we both kind of done. What's your advice for people to actually be able to slow down and smell the roses?
I mean, that's so hard, because I wish I could to tell myself that advice maybe 10, 15 years ago. I think it all comes down from, I mean, I look at my journey, it's all control. Like, I want everything to be controlled in the right way. And when you are in that mode, you're always either thinking of the past, what did I do wrong so that I can correct it, or thinking ahead in the future, what can I do to correct something? What can I do to be prepared? And when you spend all your time, whether on the past or the present, on the future, you're missing the present. Obviously, that's where the real goal is. It is in the present. And for me, what I found is the more like I practice things more mindful things in the present. Yes, meditation and mindfulness, they all work. I'm not saying not, but other things work because not everybody enjoys or can handle meditation. I mean, walking every day really gets you into that mindful mode, and really enjoying that moment. The other big challenge we have now is the internet and the phones are. It's become. I mean, for me, I can see the big difference. That I can go through phases where I sort of put my phone away for a while, and I feel so happy and so peaceful. And then I don't know how what happens, what transpires, and then suddenly I'm back on my phone, and without knowing it, I've lost my mindfulness, my everyday calmness. So I think the phone and the internet play a big role. For me, the big steps, of course, are whatever kind of breathing you can do, or stretching, or meditation. Let's call them. You can group them in one every day. Walking or doing some kind of activity. Um, I know gym is a bit more doing strength training is a bit more stressful, but for example, I found paddle. I don't know if you know about in Europe. It's quite popular.
Is that when you're standing with the thing? No.
No. Paddle is a tennis. It's like a game of. It's a mix between tennis and squash with the glass.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you'll see it in.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah. I just didn't know the name. I've actually seen it. Yeah.
And it's so addictive, but at least it's a good addiction, and it's you have to have 4 players. And the good thing about it is that going back to everyday and mindfulness, as soon as I get to the club, I park my car and I put my phone in the bank. I can feel the peaceful one. Nobody's gonna disturb me. I'm not gonna have any other thought, but try to play this game. And it's like a bit strategic. So I need to place the ball here, return the ball. So anything I feel like that takes you away from that chattering mind, thinking and talking, and it's mindfulness. So these things helps. Reading to me always, I read in the morning. It really helps me. So what I'm trying to say is that I've developed these little small rituals that I try to do every day. Not always successful, but I get them down 80%. And these sort of help me to remain mindful throughout the day. And obviously, as I age and I see the past and like some regret, like I wish I knew all this much before. And I keep telling my kids, you slow down. You're going 120 miles per hour. You don't need to. You don't need to. Of course, they don't listen to me, but I wish they would. Yeah.
Sometimes we have to, even if we read the books, we have to live our own journey, and it's like depends on the lesson that we get. So with your business, I mean, your business is 30 years plus, and it's been very successful. But you've had a few kind of hiccups during the time, and I mean, I've had over 20 companies that I've done, and what I've noticed, and just by kind of looking at it, I kind of see a pattern. And I don't know how true this is, but it's like you get to a stage where you're doing something and then you kind of get bored in it, even though you're still chugging through. So then you start going away, doing the other course, me getting like a franchise and different things like that. You take your eye off the ball that's feeding you, and then you go on, and then you go back again. And I think there's a load of people guilty of that. So like, would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think what happens is any business you start, and I've done it over 30 years, like you reach your place. It's easy to do it when you're going uphill, and you're forcing the issue, you're leading the team. Suddenly when you plateau, when the company plateaus, then you sort of plateau, or it could be the other way around. And you need some new motivation. It could be somebody in the company, a new team member, could be a new product, it could be a new direction. Ultimately, when all of these are sort of exhausted, you probably need to sell your business, right? And that's where I feel the Americans are way ahead of anybody else, because there's a cult. They understand this. There's always this exit policy. They start a business with an exit policy. Right. I mean, I've been taught, whether it's in England or whether I'm working here in Ghana and Africa, it's so hard anyway, in Ghana, it's so hard to sell your business. The minute you say you want to sell your business, everybody thinks there's something wrong with it. And they won't understand, that it's actually you that can't do it anymore. So I totally agree with that. And that's why I feel like business owners, go through a lot. They suffer a lot without a voice, and it's not like I can get phone my friend and tell him, you know what, I'm bored with my work. He's gonna look at me like, that's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. Or I'm sure some people struggle when telling their wives or their families, like, you're supposed to put food on the table. I can't decide today to leave my business because that's what's providing the money for me, right? So, and we all get stuck in these catch-22 sort of cycles, and that's why I say in the States, it's you can actually sell your business. You can actually, I mean, you have much more options than I feel I do here. So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying.
So with the TEDx talk that you've done, how special was it for you? That is it Accra or something? It's Accra in Ghana, like, because I mean, you could have done that anywhere, but the fact that it was kind of where you were born, how kind of special was that? And you might take us through your journey with the TEDx as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was special because the thing is, I had to do this talk. That was the first time I sort of came out, as they say, and I was saying things that my friends or family wouldn't actually understand. I was saying that I had made money, I'd spent money, I'd lived the life all of them were living, but I wasn't happy. So that's the first time I was raising eyebrows, and everybody was looking at me like, what are you talking? What are you saying? Some probably didn't like what I was saying because I was actually exposing them as well. Others didn't understand because they're still enjoying their journeys. It's not that they're happy, and so it was emotionally quite hard for me to do it, and also it was. I mean, I'd spoken a bit. I had given some seminars, whatever, but it's a different ball game when you want to speak with that you're facing cameras and the mic on your nearly on your lips, and with an audience, obviously, and applause. And on that day, I learned how to do breathing exercises, and I did before, and I was hoping everything would go right, but everything went wrong because the person I was waiting for kept so long, and they kept me waiting on the side. I come on, and on TEDx, you have a timer, that gives you so much time. It went blank. I had a PowerPoint that I was supposed to show. Again, it wasn't working. So, and then sort of, I even, if you see my TED Talk, I think around the 2-minute mark, I sort of stumbled a bit, like, I'm a bit lost. And then suddenly I say, you know what? I mean, I can't do anything I can't control anything. So I just let go, and I was much more vulnerable and authentic, I felt, because of that. So they really helped me because there was sort of no safeguard, nothing that was holding me back anymore. So I just spoke everything I wanted to say and a bit more as well. And I really got a very good applause. And even somebody approached me to work with them on some kind of a initiative, is the Authenticity Project, which we worked on afterwards. So yeah, but to be fair, also what really helped me, and I need to say that, and I know you address a speaking community as well. I did prepare, and that preparation really helped me, even though I didn't use everything in that talk, but I had that 1 second sort of stumble, and I thought to myself, you know what? I am prepared. I had prepared so well over the month before that I knew everything by heart, and I knew how to sort of set up the pauses in my delivery, when to wait for applause. So that really helped me. That I have to say.
Yeah. And I did. I actually watched the speech, and I enjoyed it. And it you rarely see it, but the camera was looking at the crowd a good bit through it, and you could see on gaze. But even just seeing people making notes and stuff like that, it was nice to see, because normally you wouldn't see that. They just keep it on the speaker, so it was engaging. And I know that with your preparation, you were doing it in front of family, but you also done it in the office, and you're very vulnerable in your speech, which is brilliant because more people have to be. How was that when you're talking at a deep level, doing the speech in the company?
Yeah, I mean, that was hard because they all see me as this hard-nosed, but I'm the boss, basically. And there's no vulnerability, and And I mean, some people even, I remember I got a call from one of my, like I had a business consultant, and he was saying that like I was a bit too vulnerable, like as a leader, you can't show weakness, and that's such a fallacy basically. But I went through that with the team, and when I was talking to them, and I felt like, what am I doing here? But then I sort of contended with, like, I'm the boss, at least they're not going to tell me anything in my face, right? So, yeah, I used them to practice, and I think they felt better as well. And I mean, over the years, if you want to talk about vulnerability, I've found that, and I'm still learning this curve because I'm not from that background. And even last year, we had a seminar. We were all very vulnerable, and it's been amazing because it's really sort of transformed the dynamics of the team. Like, you feel people used to complain about each other, now they're actually helping each other just because of a 1 hour session we had. I remember it was a Monday just before Christmas here, and we had a fantastic session. Everybody was vulnerable, everybody talked, and sort of I led and let them then talk. And since that, I felt the shift in dynamics. People would want to help rather than previously they would sort of point fingers and blame.
I'm just curious. I mean, with like the amount of time that you have this company, what's like, how close should you get your employees? Because it's a touchy one, because sometimes you get close and they take advantage of it, or they don't do what they should be doing. And then at other stages, if you're not close with them, do you get the best out of them? So I'm just curious what your thoughts on that.
I mean, the problem with the closeness is that and I can say this firsthand because my son came to work with me for a period now, 1 year, and spent in Ghana. He works in England, but he came just to spend 1 year with us. And of course, he's much more tech savvy. He's advanced in many things. I'm not, but I have more experience. But I felt it because I'm so close to him. It was very hard for me because the expectations get raised. The closer you are to a friend or to somebody, you have higher expectations. And then I had to sort of always hold myself back, just to remember, like, I need to treat him like any other employee. What would I have expected from A, B, C, or E instead of he being my son? And that's the same thing when you come, when you get to getting close to employee. I think there should be a line. You can't be too close. I know some people are very comfortable with it, but the problem I have is that I try to avoid confrontation. I'm not very good at it. So I either blow up or I keep quiet. So if somebody starts sort of taking advantage, I don't know when to draw the boundaries. And some people are quite good at it. They'll tell you know what, these are the boundaries. Let's not break them. But I'm not good at it. So I feel like there should always be some kind of a line. Yeah.
And with the humanitarian work that you're doing, it's like, when did it start? Why did it come about? And what exactly you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, it all came about when I went to the Bob Proctor seminar, and I told him, like, I was a bit, let's say, bored in my life, or my business was doing well. So he said, you should be playing a bigger game, then that's it. If you're bored, you have to play a bigger game. So one thing led to another, and I met somebody there. She helped me set up like a foundation in Ghana. We were trying to help kids. I'm very passionate about football. Football as in the real football, not American football, right? Not. I'm sure from your Irish roots, you understand what I'm talking about, right? So I was helping younger kids play, sort of get schooled as well as play football. Because a lot of kids in Ghana don't go to school and they just want to go and play football all the time. So what we were doing, we sort of took two classes at one of the schools, and I set up a football academy. Sort of, I would help them with coaches, training, but they had to go to school for them to be able to enter this academy. So it ran for about 5-6 years, and I funded it fully from my own pocket. I couldn't, at the end, I wasn't able to raise any funds for it. And somebody was helping me. It turned out to be a sort of also like scamming in a way, so that setting up the boys so that they could be sold in other countries without me knowing. So it was very hard for me to control. I couldn't, so I had to stop that academy. But I keep sort of helping. I've got about maybe 15, 20 kids who I still help with not just me alone, with some friends. We raise funds for them and we help them through. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And like just finally with the writing, because obviously, you know, we mentioned this book, but you've got, 3 books. You've got The Shift. So what's The Shift about?
The Shift is mainly more nonfiction. It's like I'm writing about these concepts of authenticity, vulnerability, and these are the things that I've sort of I adopted after my own shift in life. So I took a lot of my blog posts that I wrote and sort of developed them further into these themes. So I focus mainly on you need to become more vulnerable so that you open up who's really inside of you. And the more you do that, the more authentic, the more I say authenticity in Latin comes from the word authoring your life. You know, to be authentic doesn't mean you're just being honest. It means you're actually living your own life. Many of us live very good lives, but we don't live our own life. So authenticity, and through that, there's self-expression. So these are the big 3 things that I really discuss. Self-expression, I do it through writing. Others could do it through maybe speaking, through dancing, whatever that form takes part. So that was the first fiction book, a non-fiction book I wrote. I wrote one before. It's a short poetry book called The Dense Mistiness of the Ordinary. The title alone sort of puts off everybody in actually buying the book. But it was just like I wanted to write some poetry. I think with poetry, and I was okay. I wasn't great, but poetry sort of really opens up your heart and your for you to able to understand and connect all these big themes that we're talking about.
Where's the next one? Because you know you have definitely a fantastic skill for your writing. So have you plans for another book?
I mean, yes, I want to write one this year. I'm writing because the Midlife took me about 5 to 7 years to finish. You know, I started writing in 2017, but I stopped so many times in between because I didn't know what I wanted to share so much. And there was a lot of work I had to do. And honestly, even if I don't sell one copy, thankfully I have sold, but I'm just saying, it was probably one of the biggest life changers for me because I could actually see the patterns that I went through, what helped, and what I needed to do to transform even more. So yes, I'm going to write a new book, hopefully this year. I'm planning to write something. My goal is to finish at least the first draft this year. Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, Mo. You might let people know where they can find you.
I mean, I'm on Instagram, mo.issa, LinkedIn as well. You can find me, but mainly on Substack. Substack is a place where a lot of writers and readers go on. Again, it's mo.issa. My website is www.mo-issa.com.
I'll make sure I'll put all the links both on the audio and the video. Thank you very much, Mo.
Thank you, Roy. Really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Well, that's all from the Speaking Podcast. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, and share with your friends. Until next week, take care. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As mentioned at the start, you can find my 6 podcasts on roycollin.com or scan the QR code if you're looking to start a podcast or do a podcasting tour. I help with that. Also, if you're looking for a virtual assistant, we also have that service. And you can help the show by visiting the store, supporting our sponsors, or making a donation. Until next week, take care.